I hope you're having a great morning or afternoon or evening. I guess it depends on where you are. But we're going to be doing something different today. Let's talk about two different things, but both say a lot about power, performance, and youth. First, let's talk about Espa's controversial performance in Good Morning America. And then let's talk about the incredible story of how the young people of Nepal actually toppled its government in 48 hours with nothing but hashtags, VPNs, and Discord. Let's get to it. By now, everyone and their dog probably knows about the highly criticized performance of Espa in Good Morning America. Let's cut to the chase. Was it a bad performance? Yes, it was. But there's more to this than what meets the eye. Let's do an objective look at what actually went wrong. And first is the routine design itself. In this particular routine and many other routines of other K-pop groups, including Espa, the camera work is highly integrated in the routine. In other words, the camera work and the backup dancers are included in the original choreography instead of being added to enhance an already great performance. And in Korea, you can do that because the music show collaborates directly and actively with the company's creative team, especially if you're a group as big as Espa. You can do that. You can make some demands and you have an entire day of filming and rehearsal. So if a member is standing off to the side, then the cameras know to avoid showing that person. In the US, especially if you're not Beyonce level, you do not have that luxury. You'll be lucky to have three run throughs. That's why in Espa's GMA performance, we kept seeing awkward shots, someone waiting on the side while another dancer was on the center doing her thing, and it breaks the illusion for the audience. It looks disorganized when it should have looked dynamic and active. In their Korean performances, the dancers also served as walls. They are able to cover the member that is waiting on the side. Also, the cameras are perfectly timed to avoid members that aren't supposed to be seen. Next is the backup dancers. They were necessary, not sheer enhancement. Dancers are supposed to be support for the performance, but routine itself should be designed without the backup dancers, especially for Espa. They are great performers. So the routine should have been designed without the backup dancers in mind. Karina, especially the leader and the main dancer, has shown us again and again just what she can really do. But in her solo, the movements looked powerful with the backup dancers. It sort of extended the space that she occupies on the stage. The thing was that when they cleared, her movements looked small, not because she was incapable or she didn't have any skill, but simply because the design of the choreography itself was small. This is simply not a song for the West. This is too weak of a song for a Good Morning America performance. The song doesn't really have a great hook or a great bridge or even a catchy line. I know that it is supposed to be the I am a rich man part, but if you study songs by Korean acts that actually made it big in the US, Gangnam Style, Dynamite, Butter, Apathy, they are all high energy. And this song felt more like they're vibing rather than getting people to get up on their feet and dance. And maybe that is the objective, to just simply vibe. But still, it should have a catchy part. It was a bad performance, but this is also where the importance of having a great agency becomes very apparent. SM Entertainment actually needs to really study the US market and US TV shows and how things are actually done. But more importantly, they need to know what the market actually wants. It felt like they just dumped Espa in the show with no preparation. They should adjust the performance to fit a small studio, minimal camera work, and no backup dancer. If we are going to be truthful about it, SM has tried to bring several performers or several of their acts stateside to try and make it, but it hasn't really succeeded yet, which means that they haven't pinned down the formula. And I think if they're going to send Espa to try and do it again, and that's a good bet. Espa is they're great performers. They should at the very least arm themselves with lessons that they've learned in all the other attempts that they have made, how others are actually doing it and how they are succeeding, and of course, just better creatives. It was a bad performance, but it should not define them. Alicia Keys
Some people want it all, but I don't.
hit a sour note in her Super Bowl performance, but it doesn't mean that she's bad. It doesn't take away from her greatness. And just because Espa had this one bad performance doesn't mean they are bad. It simply means that they have work to do, and so does their agency. And I hope that we stop doing that, using one bad performance or several bad performances to claim that someone is bad, especially if they have thousands or hundreds of great ones. Criticisms are necessary for the improvement of the art and the artist, and also to evolve the industry. But it should always be constructive, never destructive, and definitely not hateful. Next, let's discuss how VPNs, Discord, and hashtags change an entire country. You might have been seeing in the news the unrest in Nepal, videos of politicians being stripped naked, beaten up. I do not condone violence. Nepalese actually swarmed government offices and destroyed everything and anyone they could get their hands on. Some government officials and family members actually lost their lives. It was pretty violent. And what many know is that it started because their government decided to ban social media, and that's part of it, but it's definitely not the entire story. It's complicated, but I will try to simplify it for you. And we will start with the former Prime Minister, KP Sharma Oli. He led as chairman of the Communist Party since 2018, and Nepal, under his leadership, has been described by its citizens as a state in decay. It is communist, so the government took control of everything: properties, businesses, institutions, and the government makes all the decisions, and you can't question them, from the amount of time you work to the amount of money that you are going to get paid, what you can buy, what you can own. The thing is that they don't earn much and there isn't much to buy. And that's where the downfall actually started. Economic inequality reached staggering levels. Nearly a quarter of the population left the country simply because they couldn't survive on $1,400 of yearly income. And some say it's actually even lower. And to add insult to injury, elite hypocrisy was on full display. The communist government kept on saying, we're doing this because we want everything to be fair. Nobody's going to get super rich. Nobody's going to become poor. Everybody's going to get what they need, nothing more, nothing less. But Nepalese couldn't even afford lunch. In the meantime, their family members, their children, they were buying expensive cars, going on expensive trips, and they were displaying it on social media. And then there's the misuse of foreign aid. US funneled $900 million through US aid to support democracy. Instead, those funds allegedly disappeared in the pockets of the very elites it was supposed to restrain. The contrast was just too glaring for Gen Z, and they just had enough. Young people of Nepal, raised on smartphones, fueled by frustration, decided it was just enough. They had to act. The revolution began with what seemed like just another internet trend, the Nepo baby hashtag. Nepali youth uploaded TikTok videos exposing the luxurious lifestyles of the children of party leaders. So while many ordinary families in Nepal couldn't even afford rice, the children of party officials were posing in their luxury cars and luxury handbags, traveling abroad. And the videos went viral, first in Nepal, and then eventually globally. In fact, other countries are doing the same. They are also exposing the luxurious lifestyles of their corrupt government officials. But going back to Nepal, the government panicked. They knew that they had to do something. And the solution they thought was to simply ban social media. So they banned 26 apps, including TikTok and Instagram, under the pretense of enforcing digital regulations and taxes. But in reality, it was really just an attempt to erect a digital iron curtain. It backfired spectacularly. Using Discord, VPNs, and encrypted messaging apps, young people of Nepal organized themselves, and within 24 hours, they started protesting. They swarmed government offices and the headquarters of the party. They destroyed everything they could, including the flag. They hunted down government officials. And when the military sort of sensed that there is a shift in momentum, they decided to side with the people. Now, after 2 bloody, chaotic days, the government fell, and it's not at all great. Of course, prisons were burned, inmates escaped, and parts of Nepal actually descended into chaos. Yet, it is undeniable that the young people of Nepal actually made history. Using Discord, they decided to elect their new prime minister. And it's an interim one, but her name is Sushila Karki, and she was sworn on the 12th of September, and she became the first prime minister of Nepal. Nepal's revolution, led by its youth, is actually a part of a much larger and older story. When young people decide they've had enough, regimes tremble. Back in 1986 in the Philippines, what we call the People Power Revolution, it was the first bloodless, successful revolution in the world, ended the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. And it wasn't orchestrated on hashtags and social media. We didn't have that at that time. It was just young people doing everything they could to help institutions and organizations and businesses that they knew could actually help in orchestrating this. So they helped radio stations, TV stations, newspapers. They protected military officials who expressed their support, and even churches, because it is primarily a Catholic country. And they knew that the voices of church leaders will be important. One afternoon, the Archbishop of Manila called on everybody to swarm EDSA. It is one of the most used freeways in Manila. And the first ones there were the young people, young Filipinos. And with no hashtags, no social media, they actually toppled the government. And you can even go way back in 1776 in America. The US founding fathers are often remembered as powdered wig elders, but they were actually very young. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he drafted the Declaration of Independence. Alexander Hamilton was 21. And George Washington, who was known as the older statesman, was actually 44 when he led the Continental Army. Independence itself was in many ways a youth movement because young people have less to lose, more to gain, and more energy to act. Unfortunately, the story doesn't end here. If history has shown us anything, is that revolutions don't end in fireworks or flag raising. It invites counter revolutions. The Philippines, though freed from Marcos, although his son is actually back and the current president of the Philippines, has been suffering from cycles of corruption and authoritarian relapse. You can also go way back. For example, France, after 1789, the French Revolution toppled the monarchy in 1789 and declared a republic. But within a decade, chaos and factionalism led to the Reign of Terror, Napoleon's rise, and eventually the restoration of monarchy in 1814. The revolution inspired Europe, but the counter revolutions showed how fragile revolutionary government can be. There's also the Arab Spring. Youth led protests toppled Hosni Mubarak after 30 years in power. democratic elections brought Mohamed Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood to power in 2012. But just 1 year later, the military staged a counter revolutionary coup, installing General Abdel Fattah el Sisi, who still rules today. And that's it for today. We covered two very different topics, but I hope that you enjoyed it. And it had one thing in common: the power of the youth. With Espa, we saw how young artists face criticism, scrutiny, how they stumble, how they grow, and why one performance shouldn't define their future. With Nepal, we witnessed how an entire generation can decide they've had enough and change their future using the tools they know best: hashtags, Discord, and VPNs. One story is about music, and then the other story is about revolution, but both remind us of the same thing. Young people have the energy, ability, and creativity to change their future, whether on stage or on the world stage. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Please consider supporting the channel. If you like that, there should be a QR code on your screen right now. We are expanding the channel. We just launched Soft Launch, our online magazine. Please visit it, asianentertainmentandculture.com. I would appreciate any comment, but also, please follow me on X, IG, but more importantly on Patreon. That's where the conversations are happening. If you want to talk about movies, TV shows, celebrities, art, culture, or if you just want to have fun, please go there. We do have a free tier just in case you want to try things out first. And also, I launched my YouTube membership. I do have an exclusive live stream and exclusive content. It does not go public. That's it. Please like the video, subscribe, hit that notification button. But the most important thing, please share it. Share it to your friends. Leave a link on your email, messaging app, social media. It is going to push the algorithm to recommend us more. Thank you so much. Till next time.